The event from Matthew of the disciples of John does happen later, which means that here in Mark, it's probably the same incident as recorded in Luke. It's just the scribes and the Pharisees asking the question and remarking how the disciples of John are also doing the same. His response in both Matthew and Luke is the same, but again, the reason why these are most likely different events is because in Matthew it says immediately while he's responding, the ruler comes to him and asks him to heal his daughter, and he does go. And on the way, the woman is healed of the blood. And that event happens one chapter later in Luke. And later, I'll put in the question from only the disciples of John. Now I have to deal with Matthew 9. When Jesus returns from his trip over the sea that he calmed, and then the disciples of John show up. He's probably eating. It's been a long set of days. He's probably eating, and they question him, "Why don't you fast?" So he gives that response. Matthew, then came to him the disciples of John, saying, so I will actually put that right here. Then came to him the disciples of John, saying, why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples fast not? And Jesus said to them, can the children of the bride chamber mourn? And this is a different word than what's used in Mark and Luke. Luke and Mark both say fast. It's sort of a different response. Otherwise, it's the same. Mourn, as long as the bridegroom is with them. But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then shall they fast. Now he says fast. The rest of that I took care of. No man puts a piece of new cloth in an old garment, because I really feel like that fits better. It makes more sense to have it where it was mentioned earlier. And then he goes on to say, no one puts a piece of a new cloth to an old garment. Neither do people put new wine in old bottles. Word for word with what's said in Mark and Luke. It seems here between Mark and Luke, because it says, why do the disciples of John and likewise the Pharisees, and that they asked him, that this must not be the disciples of John. Because of that, I had these two events separate. As if Jesus responded once to whoever is questioning him the first time, as recorded in Mark and Luke. And now, this record in Matthew is a different event. What I want to do is read it once. All the events one time in order. I can't move it. I just can't. This is clearly John's disciples when there's not. This is clearly saying, while he was done speaking these things, Jairus came to him, which I know is later. That's not this situation earlier with Matthew giving him a feast. So I have to put this event here, even though I know it doesn't really fit, because Jesus is coming back over the same lake. This is like 2 days in a row now that he's been moving non-stop. He might have gotten some rest in the boat, but he's got to be ridiculously tired. It doesn't seem to fit that he's going to be saying to the disciples of John, we're celebrating. He may not be celebrating. This may actually be a few hours or a day later, because if the disciples of John really are asking him, why do we fast, but you and your disciples fast not? They're probably eating now. It makes sense because they've been moving and casting out demons and ministering and traveling for 2 days straight. They crossed over, cast the demons out of the Gadarene demoniac, and then came right back. So I don't know if this is the middle of the night or if they have been working through the night and now it's the next day, but I guess they must have been eating, and then the disciples of John asked him, why you're always eating and we never see you fast. So I don't think this is a celebration. I don't think this is a party, because Jesus is still very tired. I need to put something here. So I want to put his first response to the disciples of John. Can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then they shall fast. And then I'll stop there, and I'll put the next 2 verses of his response. No man puts a piece of new cloth to an old garment. And then the following verse, neither do men put new wine into old bottles. I'll move that part of his response back. Again, this is Matthew. And even though some of what Jesus is saying here must have been here, because it says, while he spoke these things to them, he does combine things to put a point. This is the only instance in Matthew when this happens. So it makes sense that if this actually is a second event, if Matthew didn't write about the first one, he would combine any other response Jesus might have had into this one record. I feel like it would be okay to do that here. And then the very next words, while he spoke these things to them, Jairus. I put that in parentheses because it's not named in Matthew. So how to mix that with Mark and Luke? Where did I leave off in Mark? And behold, there comes one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name. So it just goes right into Jairus showing up. Luke says, and behold, there came a man named Jairus, and he was a ruler of the synagogue, and fell down at Jesus' feet. Okay. So while he spoke these things to them, behold. That is in more than one. And behold, there comes. I could put and while he spoke these things, behold. I could do that. And behold, there comes. Yeah, that would fit. So I'll put from Mark and Luke and while he spoke these things to them, now behold from all three. Behold, there came a certain ruler. Mark, behold, there comes one of the rulers. Luke, behold, there came a man named Jairus, and he was a ruler of the synagogue. I think I could put it the way Matthew has it and still have it fit. Behold, there came a certain ruler. I can add from Luke of the synagogue. Yeah, because that's how Mark has it. There comes one of the rulers of the synagogue. So it's kind of the layout of Mark, but it's with the words from Matthew and Luke. And then I can go Jairus by name, just as it has in Mark. Or I could choose the way Luke has it, named Jairus. Matthew doesn't have the name, it just says a certain ruler. Luke continues, and he fell down at Jesus' feet. Matthew says, and worshipped him. Mark says, and when he saw him, he fell at his feet. So they all say, and fell at his feet. So Jairus by name, and fell at his feet. If it was, there came a certain ruler, Jairus by name, it would fit if it said who fell at his feet. But it doesn't. So I think it fits better the way Luke has it. There came a certain ruler of the synagogue named Jairus. No, that still needs to be who. I think I like named Jairus instead of Jairus by name. Matthew, there came a certain ruler. Mark, there comes one of the rulers. There came a certain ruler. So only there and ruler is in Mark. Even though it's rulers, it's pretty much the same. And then of the synagogue. So there is Matthew, Mark. Luke, there came a man. There came a certain ruler. There came a man named Jairus. You know, actually, I'm rethinking this. What's more important? Is it his name or his position? I often think that I'm more than my job, right? But in many ways, your job sort of defines you. That's how people see you. And it might not be right that people do that. Like when you speak of Jesus, you wouldn't say there came a certain carpenter named Jesus or a certain builder named Jesus. You wouldn't say that. You would just say, then came Jesus. He's famous. So maybe it's different for someone less famous. Well, actually, if you said Jesus, there came the Messiah, Jesus by name, that would make sense. His position is important, but his name is more important. I don't know. You know what? Because Luke has more words, a man named Jairus, I think I'll go with that. I already want to go with named Jairus, but I'm going to mention that he's a man as well. It's not really necessary, but there's also not really any need to kick it out either. So I'll just include it. There came, that's the same as Matthew, there came a certain, a man named Jairus. So I'll say there came a certain man. There came a Matthew and Luke. Mark just there, because I'm not going to put commas. Behold, comma, there. And then Matthew, Luke came a certain is Matthew, then Luke only man named Jairus. Jairus by name, so I could say name is in Mark and Luke. Matthew, he's not named, so just Mark and Luke. Named Jairus.